Welcome to Trial Site News Podcast Series. Today we are speaking with Dr. Paula Ragan, CEO of X4. Now, X4 is currently developing therapies for rare genetic diseases that result from dysfunction of the immune system and is currently undergoing a global phase 3 trial for WHIM Syndrome and two phase 1b trials for Waldenstrom macroglobulinemia, a type of rare lymphoma, and a severe congenital neutropenia. So, Doctor, welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the chance to speak to you and your audience.
Pleasure is ours. Now, you made the leap to found X4 Pharmaceuticals a few years ago. What were the drivers to found this company?
For me, it's all about the patients. I really am excited to figure out how to, provide my gifts to people who have remaining unmet needs and kind of are under championed in the world. So I think you'll hear the story around WHIM disease in particular, and just how I'm hopeful that I'll be able to make a difference for someone someday.
Now, you have an incredibly impressive background, from education to a series of biotech executive positions to being a founder of a biotech venture. Can you share with us where you grew up and how you found yourself gravitating to an undergrad in mechanical engineering at Tufts and then bioengineering and biomedical engineering and master's program at Boston University, followed by PhD from MIT in biomedical engineering?
So for me, it's always been about building something to help someone. Kind of a funny story. When I was little, my mom was basting the Thanksgiving turkey and the baster broke. So I bumbled together a racquetball plus a little tube that we found to kind of help her in that critical moment on Thanksgiving. And I think I just have that profile, wanting to build and help someone in need. So hence the long engineering career around building and innovation. I think as I learned more about the human body, I learned how hard it is to build something to help it restore itself, help it heal. And so that's my passion, love in terms of drug development. It's a great opportunity to integrate the complexities and the building in terms of making something meaningful.
Now, you made your way to Genzyme, which was a prominent biotech company, which ultimately was acquired by Sanofi. Could you share for our audience what you learned working on a bigger biotech venture such as Genzyme?
Absolutely. So Genzyme really was about great medicines make great business. So the first thing you have to remain focused on is how to build a great medicine, and everything else will fall into place. That is a very clarifying mantra for our industry, and it really helps prioritize how we invest and actually bring things back as early as possible into about the patient. So I think what I've been able to take from Genzyme and hopefully recreate at X4 is constantly thinking about that good medicine, thinking about those patients in need, and building from as early as preclinical all the way through our phase 3.
You then ran your own consultancy after that for a couple of years before launching X4 Pharmaceuticals. Can you talk about how this time led to the founding of this company and what were the drivers involved?
Sure. I mean, I think that period of my life was about applied grit. The word grit is used quite a bit in our industry these days, but there's sort of walking the walk. I was in between jobs, actually, so I decided to leave Genzyme, and I really wanted to spin these assets out and form X4, but it took a few years. So in that interim, I still needed a job like many of us, and so I kind of balanced my life between consulting and supporting some very innovative companies and colleagues that I had known, as well as parallel processing, getting X4 off the ground.
Now, I want to ask you about the phase 3 for WHIM syndrome. Now, this is very promising. How close are you away from wrapping up these studies and filing a new drug application for BLA? And for our audience, if you could also give a brief description about WHIM syndrome for those that may not know.
Sure. So, I mean, WHIM syndrome is a disease of the immune system. So patients are born without an ability to truly fight infections the same way you and I do. And obviously in our COVID world, that's a priority for all of us. So these patients are challenged from birth. And we're developing a drug that hopefully is one solution to their one problem. It is a genetic disease. So they literally have a defect in one gene, and our drug directly addresses that in a very targeted way. So just about the phase 3, this is why we're really excited. The phase 3 is ongoing. It's our final trial to support, hopefully, an FDA and European approval for the drug. The initial data will come out in 2022, which could then show that we're on the track to file the NDA with the FDA. So it's 2022 and beyond, but we're getting closer and closer every day. So it's a great time for the company.
Now, you founded the venture in 2014, X4. And we know it focuses on developing first, best in, and only in class oral in small molecule CXCR4 antagonists. Now, this is big and some would say a scary move. Can you talk about what it was like in that first year? How did you secure the intellectual property? And how did you fund the initial efforts?
Sure. So the first couple years were tricky, and I think it was a great leap forward for me professionally with a lot of support from mentors and colleagues around me. The licensing of the intellectual property, I had the experience through business development to understand how to do that and understand the team around me that needed to help make that happen. The trickier part was the fundraising. I had never had any experience in fundraising. I think I had the communication skills. It's very important to be able to tell the story and get people to engage in your vision. But at the end of the day, people have to cut the check. So that was a real litmus test for me. But I had a lot of encouragement and support from some great CEOs and colleagues along the way that had also gone that journey. So it gave me a lot of confidence.
Now, can you talk about your investigational products, such as the oral small molecule CXCR4 antagonists? What are these drugs? Why are they uniquely targeted for the tumor microenvironment of refractory solid tumors?
Sure. So the drug that we're developing is extremely specific. So that's where the word targeted comes in. The the point in the body that we're impacting is called CXCR4, and that is directly a driver of immune cell trafficking. So normal immune system cells need to move about the body, find the foreign particles, including cancer, and clear them out. This receptor is one of the key drivers, it's the engine in some ways of these mobilized white blood cells, which are your army to fight infection. So our drug helps boost that. Our drug helps boost that army, get them out there, clearing both infections and certain sort of abnormalities that form the basis of cancer.
Now, I want to talk to you about raising funds. So you briefly touched on that. Can you share with our audience the amount raised, and can you verify this and walk us through how many rounds it took and what you had to do to make this happen?
Yeah, at this point, we have raised just slightly over $225 million as a company. The first wave of that was the private financings, which were $75 million of that 225. That initial journey of X4 was really about private investors, smaller investment funds, a few family offices such as the Kraft Group, which is a local group here in Boston. Some may know the Patriots. So we had that innovative group that saw the promise of the company in the early days. Then when we went public, we actually attracted the recognition of long-term investors such as Fidelity and Bain Capital. Those are the types of investors that will help us mature as a commercial company once we're ready to deliver our therapies to these patients.
Now, for those in the audience that want to learn more about X4 Pharmaceuticals, what does your pipeline look like now?
Yes, we have three innovative drugs. Mavorixafor is the one that's in the clinic, which we're excited about in terms of getting it first over the line for approval. But we have two additional drugs that are preclinical. One is being oriented in a specific way to allow it to penetrate the brain. Your brain is a whole different organ system to deliver drugs to. So we're trying to develop a next generation molecule to help certain brain cancers with our 002 program. And the 003 program is another wave of innovation where we hope to expand our treatment into other patients with immunodeficiencies.
Now, how have you run your clinical trial programs thus far? CROs, and if so, do you use one CRO or do you mix it up?
So most importantly, we have an incredibly talented internal team of people, very experienced, kind of the SWAT team of clinical development. That's absolutely necessary even when we do have these outside partners. So we do have CROs that we're working with, and we pick every CRO dependent upon the nature of the study. So our global phase 3 is in 17 countries. This is an absolutely massive operational effort, and we've partnered with some great CROs that are global with experience in rare disease. On the flip side, our severe congenital neutropenia is US only. It's a small number of sites. So we almost have a boutique firm that we're working with that really knows how to handle these sort of smaller focus studies.
And finally, before we let you go today, can you share with those in the audience that have aspirations to launch a new biotech company, what are the top three considerations for success and what are the top three risk factors?
Sure. So, I mean, the top three things that you might want to focus on is, believing in yourself and believing in your mission. That absolutely drives your communication skills and others' belief in you. I mean, that's really what leadership takes. It's not easy. It's always a challenging journey we all travel, but believe in yourself. Listen to your experience network. No one knows everything. No one has the experiences. It's just the relentless integration of information to help you make the right decision at the right time. And then I think third is, don't make decisions based on fear, make it based on fact and information, and just keep moving forward. So that'd probably be my three pieces of perspective or advice. On the risk factor side, I would say equivalently, like there are infinite risks in our industry. So to boil it down to three, I actually think what you need to appreciate, or what we all should appreciate, is you have to be relentless about defining your top risks all the time and keep kind of working through them. Just it should be present and top of mind. And then you have to embrace risk and not fear it. You have to work through it and almost kind of keep working down your list until that drug's ready for your patients and beyond. So.
Well, Dr. Ragan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with us. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to share this with our audience.